live from the new sports betting capital of the world.
You might be from Texas, but I'm from New Jersey.
Benny Ricciardi is here to break down the day's betting board for you.
Let's go, Jerry. Go!
Taking a first look at the day's bets, it's time for the FTN Betting Show. Welcome to the FTN Bets Cast for Thursday, May 19th, here at FTN Bets, sponsored by our friends over at Sleeper. Sleeper is the fastest growing fantasy platform today with millions of players. And now you could win on Sleeper by playing in their new over-under game. It's super easy to play. So first, in any sport, you're going to choose two or more players that you like, and you're going to pick whether they're going to go over or under their listed total. So for example, in basketball tonight, could be something like the number of points, the number of three-pointers they're going to hit, the number of steals or blocks, rebounds, assists, anything that we have there. Then you're going to choose an amount of money that you want to enter into the contest. If you pick correctly, you can win anywhere from 2 times your money all the way up to 20 times your money if you pick 5 out of 5 and you get them all correct. The main reason, though, why I'm excited about this over-under game on Sleeper is that it's the only app where I can join with my buddies and play together. It has a built-in group chat where we can all see what each other's playing. So if I put in a play, you can see what I'm playing. If you put something in, I can see what you're playing. We could all see what the guy who won 3 or 4 days in a row in our group is playing, and we could all follow along. It's insanely fun when everybody's riding it out together and rooting for the same things to happen. So stop what you're doing right now and download the Sleeper, play in their new over-under game, have fun with your friends, and make a little bit of money in the process. On your mobile phone, join our listener group on Sleeper at sleeper.com/FTNBets, and Sleeper will automatically match your first deposit up to $100. Again, sleeper.com/FTNBets and get that $100 match on your first deposit. There are terms and conditions that apply, so see Sleeper's terms of use for details. Today, we're going to talk about Game 2 in the Eastern Conference between the Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics. Miami won the first game 118-107. They went on a 22-2 run to start the third quarter, put them from being down 10 at halftime to being up 10. And basically, they cruised from that point on, never really looking back. The Celtics got it down to like 4 or 5 points a couple times. But, for the most part, Miami was able to extend the lead anytime they needed to. They got a bunch of big shots. They got a monster game out of Jimmy Butler, who had 40 points there. Now, remember, in that first game, Al Horford was in the COVID protocol, I guess, the health and safety protocol. So he did not play in that game. It looks like Al Horford is doubtful to play in this game again here today. So I wouldn't expect that we're going to see him here tonight. Probably going to get a lot more of those Grant Williams, Robert Williams kind of minutes there for the Boston Celtics. Marcus Smart, who missed the first game, is considered probable to play here tonight. So the Celtics will be getting a little bit of reinforcement with, their stud defensive player with Marcus Smart coming back for this game here right now. So, I think that, that's going to be a little bit of a boost for the Celtics. And we'll talk about that in a minute when we start talking about what the spread is on this game. On the Miami side of this game, Kyle Lowry is going to remain out. He was out in game 1 as well, so not really anything crazy there. Max Strus and Gabe Vincent are both listed as questionable, but these guys have been listed as questionable pretty much throughout the playoffs, and they keep showing up and they keep playing. So I'm not going to put too much stock into that questionable tag. So now let's move on and actually talk about that spread. So for the first game, the spread opened around, I think it was -5 or -5.5, depending on where you were looking, dropped down to -4.5, -5 by game time. It dropped a little bit lower, and then when the Horford news came, it creeped back up. I think it was actually as low as 1.5 and creeped up to like 4.5, 5 when the when everything was said and done, when everything came out. So with Marcus Smart back playing today, you would expect it to be a little bit lower than the 4.5, 5 that it went off at last game. And that's exactly where it is right now. It did open at that same 5, but again, with Marcus Smart being back in, we've seen it actually adjust downward a little bit. So right now, it's pretty much a standard number actually, I think it is a standard number on every one of the books I'm looking at here. It's 3.5 plus or minus at -110. Every book right now has it, or I shouldn't say every book, but all the books that I'm looking at here, all the online books that we work with, DraftKings, FanDuel, Caesars, BetMGM, PointsBet, they all have it, Unibet, Bet Rivers, Sugar House, I can go all down the line here. They all have this at 3.5 Miami -3.5, Boston +3.5, and they all have it at a -110 right there. So if you're interested in getting money down on either side of this game, that's where it is. I got to say, I kind of agree with this number right here. If anything, I think it might be a little bit high. So there's probably a little bit of value on the Boston side. But really, I would think that the spread should have been like, I don't know, maybe -3. So you're talking maybe half a point of value here. Not anything I want to put money in on one side or the other. So now we can go on and talk about the total here today. Total opened at 208, so it's down slightly. It's really hasn't moved all that much. If you want to play the over on this total right here, 207 is the number. PointsBet has that at -115. So the over at 207 juiced up slightly, which means the over should actually be a little bit higher, like 207 and a quarter, 207 and a half, maybe. And 207 and a half is what a lot of the other books out there in the market have. But if you do want to play an over, you can get it at 207 on PointsBet. That is the lowest number out there. You do have to pay a little bit of juice at -115, but you know what? Not too bad overall right there. If you want to play the under, you can basically get the under on almost every other book out there. DraftKings, FanDuel, Caesars, MGM, no, not PointsBet. They got it at 207. Everybody but PointsBet basically has it at 207 and a half. And the under is at that -110 number. There is a -108 on WinBet if you have WinBet available. But everyone else has it at -110. So you could save 2 basis points if you have WinBet available over there. If not, like I said, -110 everywhere else at the moment for under 207 and a half. I do lean that way to the under here. I know last game finished with what, like 225 points, right? 118, 107. So last game finished at 225, but I expected this to be a low scoring series. We talked about some of the numbers, for when they played during the regular season as well. And the playoffs, you tend to see the defense get a little bit tighter. Although you didn't in the first game, but then again, two of the better defensive options for Boston and Marcus Smart and Al Horford were off the floor there. And Boston also had to play a lot of scramble towards the end because at one point, I think they were down like 16 or 18 points or something like that when Miami went on that little run. So Boston was basically just playing fast and trying to get back in the game for the end. I think if the game stays closer, I think what you're going to wind up seeing is that the score stays a little bit closer as well. They take a little bit more time on some of those possessions, not so much up and down, and probably not so many easy transition ones for Miami in the other direction. So there you go. Let's see. We talked about the spread. We talked about the total. Let's talk about some of the player props here now. There are 4 that I'm looking at here today, 2 that I like a lot on the Sleeper app, 2 other ones that I like a lot on the sports books where the value is a little bit better over there. So let's start with the Miami side. The only play that I'm really interested in here on Miami is Gabe Vincent over 10.5 points. So we can get this at even money on FanDuel right now, plus 100. So during the regular season in games that Kyle Lowry played, Gabe Vincent played about 20 minutes a game and averaged 7.6 points. In the games that Kyle Lowry didn't play, though, during the season, we saw 30-plus minutes for Gabe Vincent, 11-plus points for him in the games without Lowry. Last game, Lowry did not play. Well, Gabe Vincent played over 30 minutes, had a really good game, wound up scoring 17 points. I think he knocked down a couple threes, a couple free throws as well. But again, we only need him to get to 11 today. He had 17 in game 1 in that first game there. So, yes, I like Gabe Vincent. I like him over 10.5 points here. This is one of those ones, though, like I said, at even money, that's telling you that the market is implying that this has a 50-50 shot of winning. And I think that this is more than a 50-50 chance, which is why I think there's value here on him. And that's why I want to play this. But like I said, this is one that I'm playing on the sports books. Gabe Vincent over 10.5 points, plus 100 on FanDuel. Another one that I'm looking to play on the sports books is another one that I'm getting at even money on FanDuel. And that's going to be our boy Jason Tatum going over 6.5 rebounds. So we talked about it last game that, this is a guy who averaged over 8 rebounds a game against Miami during the year. In the 3 games that they played, he had 25 rebounds. Well, he had another 8 rebounds in the last game as well. So now in 4 games against Miami, he has 33 rebounds. So he's averaging 8.25 rebounds per game against Miami here. We only need him to get over 7 to cash this number. So I like that, quite a bit here today. In the regular season, he averaged 36 minutes a night and 7.7 rebounds. So far in the playoffs, he's been averaging over 40 minutes. So you got to give a little bump to that rebounding number. Again, you're giving him about an extra 10% on his minutes total. So if you give him an extra 10% on the number of rebounds, you're looking at like 8.5 to 9 rebounds there. So he does project over this as well here today. In the last 5 games for Jason Tatum, 13 rebounds, 6 rebounds, 9 rebounds, 6 rebounds, 8 rebounds. So he's cashed this in 3 of his last 5 games. And the 2 games that he missed by half a rebound with 6 rebounds both times in those 2 games. So I like this Jason Tatum one. Like I said, another one that I would rather play on the sports books. I wouldn't play it if you have to go over like maybe minus 115. There are a lot of minus 110s out there on this over 6.5 number. FanDuel having the best price, having this at even money. And I do think this is better than a coin flip. That's why I think there's value here on Tatum. So now let's talk about some of the ones that are a little bit of a higher, well, I should say a little bit of a lower odds. These are some of the ones I like a little bit better if you're playing over on Sleeper. Remember, on Sleeper, we don't care so much if something is even money or minus 150 because the payout's going to be the same. But it is good for us to look at because something that's even money is a 50% implied probability of happening, whereas something that could be like minus 130 or minus 140 is a 58 or 59% implied probability of that event happening. We want to be betting on the things that are 58, 59% likely because those are the things that are going to happen more often. So if we keep taking the things that are going to happen more often, we're going to have more winners overall. And that's what it's all about, is going over to Sleeper and making some money over there. So the 2 that I like over there are both 3-point field goal made props, and they're both on the Boston Celtics side. So the one I like the most is probably going to be Jason Tatum over 3.5 3-pointers. Now, I know that sounds like a lot, but last game he shot just 2 of 9. Okay, so he didn't make it over this number. But in 7 of the last 8 games, he has taken at least 9 3-point field goal attempts. And that's what I really like about it is, if this guy's going to be jacking them up, I mean, he had 3 or 4 games in that Milwaukee series where he took double-digit 3-point attempts. So, I mean, if he's going to be taking 9, 10, 12 3-pointers in all these games, asking him to get over 3.5 is not a lot here, especially with him being the number 1 scorer and playing like 41, 44, 42 minutes a night is what this guy's playing right now. So he's basically out on the floor for almost the entire game. So I like the over here. You can get this over. You look at the sports books. The cheapest you're going to find is minus 127 on Unibet and Bet Rivers and Sugar House. But it's between like minus 127 and minus 135 on just about every site that we work with here. And that's like a 56 to 57% implied probability. Definitely something that I'll be looking at. Jason Tatum over 3.5 3-pointers. One of my favorite plays for the Sleeper app here today. The other one that I'm looking at 3-point prop wise is going to be Grant Williams of the Boston Celtics. As long as Al Horford remains out. Now, again, Horford is listed as questionable today. Everything I'm reading says it's even more likely that he's going to be doubtful and not play today. If Horford is in, then I'm not playing this Grant Williams one. I also wouldn't be touching any of the Robert Williams props as well if Al Horford's going to be in, because he'll take minutes away from both of those guys. But if Horford is going to be out, there are some things with both of the Williams guys that I'm interested in, points being the one I'm interested in for Robert Williams. But the 3-point field goals made for Grant Williams is another one there. This is actually one of the shortest odds things we have that we could bet on here today that's available on the Sleeper app. Minus 132 on FanDuel for Grant Williams over 1.5 3-pointers. Minus 140 on DraftKings, on BetMGM, on Caesars. So let's see. In 2 of the 3 games against Brooklyn, 3 of the 7 games against Milwaukee, this is a number that he has went over there. So you're talking, 5 of the last 10 games that he played, he's been over this. This is a guy who shot 41% from 3-point line this year. So if he's going to be playing 35 minutes tonight or 34 minutes tonight, if there's no Al Horford, if he can get up 4 or 5 3-pointers just based on his percentages this season, he's got a good chance to go over this number. Again, if Horford's playing, I don't want to touch this. But if Al Horford's out, I like Grant Williams over 1.5 3-point field goals made. And that is going to be one of my favorite plays on Sleeper here today. So let's talk about that, Sleeper play of the day here. So what you guys are going to do is you go down into the description of this podcast right now, or if you're listening on YouTube, you go down to the description below the video. You're going to see there's a link there to get over to Sleeper. The link is sleeper.com/FTNBets. And what that'll do is that'll get you into our sleeper group. So you'll be able to see what all the guys over at FTN are doing on sleeper, what they're playing, what plays they're putting in for the over-under contest tonight, as well as all the other people who have joined already. Anybody who puts in a play, that play will pop up there, and you have some stuff that you could look at if you're looking to get a play in too. And the other thing that's great about the sleeper app is, again, if you use that promo code, you join our group, your first deposit up to $100, they will give you a match 100%. I always tell everybody, if you can afford to put the $100 in, put the $100 in, get the full bonus. You'll have $200 to play with. What I would do with that $200 tonight is Jason Tatum over 3.5 3-pointers, Grant Williams over 1.5 3-pointers. If you put those two overs in to your contest entry and you're right, and both of those guys knock down their threes and we cash both sides of this here today, you're going to turn that $100 that you put into the account into $600, giving you a plus 500 return on this today. You're not going to find that anywhere better. You can go over to the sports books and parlay those two together. Tatum over 3.5, Grant Williams over 1.5. You're going to get a payout somewhere around like the $330, $320 range. You're getting plus 600. You're getting $600 on your payout, plus 500 over on sleeper. It's a no-brainer that's where you should go put this in tonight. So if you haven't already, click on that link below. Put in Tatum, Grant. Put in $100 first so that you get it. Get the full bonus there. Put in Tatum, put in Grant Williams. At the end of the night, you'll have $600 sitting in your account. And then you'll have the start of a nice little bankroll that you can start playing with these over-under games over on Sleeper. So there you go. That's going to wrap it up for today's edition of the FTN Betscast here at FTN Bets, sponsored by our friends at Sleeper. Good luck, everybody.
Live from the new sports betting capital of the world.
You might be from Texas, but I'm from New Jersey.